The Imperial Palace of Drachme wasn't just big. It was the kind of massive that made you feel like an ant walking through a cathedral made of crystals and starlight. The thing orbited twin suns, and every morning those suns would hit the palace spires just right, sending rainbow light cascading through halls that stretched for miles. Beautiful, sure. But also kind of terrifying when you remembered who lived here. Empress Veskara. If you've been paying attention to galactic news for the last 200 years, you'd know that name. The Drakthol weren't just another alien species in the Galactic Coalition. They were apex predators that evolved on a death world where everything either had fangs, fire, or both. 12 feet tall when standing upright, covered in scales that could deflect plasma rounds, wings that could carry them through space for short bursts, and yeah, they could breathe actual fire. Not the sparkler kind either. The kind that could melt through ship hulls. And Veskara? She was the scariest one of them all. Ruled 3 entire sectors. Had put down rebellions with nothing but her personal guard. Made diplomats wet themselves during trade negotiations. That kind of ruler. But right now, in her private office overlooking the palace gardens, she was doing something nobody would ever believe. She was stress eating. Well, stress incinerating. She grabbed these expensive data tablets containing resignation letters, read about 3 lines, then just torch them with a quick breath of fire. The smell of burning electronics filled the room. Your Majesty, her chief advisor said carefully, that was the 20th tutor this month. I can count, Veskara growled, smoke curling from her nostrils. The advisor, a smaller Drakthol named Pyreth who'd survived 30 years of service by knowing when to shut up, shifted his weight nervously. The spawn are proving difficult to manage. That was the understatement of the century. Veskara's 3 hatchlings were in what the Drakthol called the juvenile molt. It was basically the terrible twos, except these toddlers were the size of small cars and could set furniture on fire when they got cranky. Which was always. They hadn't slept properly in months, which made them aggressive, hyperactive, and completely unteachable. The Galactic Coalition had sent their best educators. A logic specialist who taught 1,000 species advanced mathematics? Quit after one day when little Tyvex melted his teaching console. A renowned behavioral expert who'd worked with apex predators across 12 systems? Fled after Korith chased her through 4 palace levels breathing fire. A Zen master from the peaceful Lamina species who specialized in calming troubled youth? Currently in therapy himself. Veskara had tried everything. Discipline, rewards, even bringing in Drakthol elders who claimed to remember the old ways. Nothing worked. And the worst part? She couldn't show weakness. Not now. There were nobles watching, always watching, waiting for any sign that the great Empress couldn't even control her own children. In Drakthol culture, strength was everything. Admitting her spawn were completely out of control could start whispers, and whispers could become rebellions. She slumped in her throne, which was really just a fancy chair designed to accommodate wings and a tail. For the first time in decades, Empress Veskara felt helpless. Meanwhile, 12 levels below in the service corridors, Tyler Webb was having a pretty normal Tuesday. Well, normal for working in an alien palace anyway. He pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway, earbuds in, listening to old Earth music while he mopped floors that probably cost more than his entire hometown back in Ohio. Tyler was part of Earth's cultural exchange program, which was a fancy way of saying jobs program in space. After humanity joined the Galactic Coalition 15 years ago, they'd been trying to find their niche. Humans weren't the strongest, or the smartest, or the longest lived. They were kind of middle of the road on most things. But they were reliable workers, and apparently, really good at custodial services. Something about human attention to detail. So Tyler had signed up, figuring it beat working at the hardware store back home. The pay was decent, he got to see actual aliens every day, and mostly people just ignored him. When you're the janitor, you're basically invisible. Which suited Tyler just fine. He was cleaning near the Empress's office when he heard the commotion. Raised voices, the sound of something expensive breaking, and then a familiar sound of fire. Another tutor biting the dust, probably literally. The door slid open and some fancy-looking alien in robes practically ran past him, clutching a burned briefcase and muttering about hazard pay. Tyler couldn't help himself. He peeked through the still-open door and saw the Empress surrounded by smoke, looking more tired than terrifying. Just cranky kids who need a nap, Tyler muttered to himself, turning back to his mop bucket. He didn't notice the royal guard standing right behind him until a clawed hand landed on his shoulder. Tyler's heart nearly exploded. He spun around to find an 8-foot-tall Drakthol warrior staring down at him with those unsettling yellow eyes. "Repeat what you said," the guard rumbled. "Ah. Nothing? I was just. The Empress wishes to speak with you. And that's how Tyler Webb, minimum wage janitor from Earth, found himself standing in front of the most powerful being in 3 sectors, still holding a mop. Veskara studied him like a scientist examining a bug. You think my spawn need a nap? Tyler's survival instinct screamed at him to apologize, Bo, maybe faint. But he'd already said it, and something about her exhausted expression made him honest. I got a niece back home. When she gets cranky and starts throwing stuff, it's usually because she's tired. Kids are kids, right? Even really big scary kids. The office went dead silent. Pyrath looked ready to tackle Tyler for disrespect. But then Veskara did something unexpected. She laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together, but it was definitely a laugh. You have one night, she said. Calm my spawn. Get them to sleep. Do this, and I triple your contract pay. Fail, and you're exiled from Imperial space forever. Do you accept? Tyler should have said no. Should have run. But he looked at this powerful Empress who couldn't figure out her own kids, thought about his niece back home, and figured how hard could it be? Yeah. I accept. He had no idea what he'd just agreed to. The royal nursery was located in the East Wing, and Tyler could hear it before he could see it. The sound was like a tornado mixed with a rock concert mixed with a car crash. Constant, chaotic noise that made his teeth hurt. The guard escorting him stopped at a massive obsidian door that had scorch marks all over it. Good luck, human, he said, and Tyler couldn't tell if he was being sincere or sarcastic. Probably both. The door slid open and Tyler stepped into what could only be described as a war zone. The nursery was huge, maybe the size of a basketball court, with walls made of some black stone that looked melted in places. There were shattered toys everywhere, expensive-looking artifacts reduced to rubble, and scorch marks on pretty much every surface. The temperature was about 20 degrees hotter than the rest of the palace, and the air smelled like sulfur and burnt plastic. And in the middle of all this chaos were 3 dragon children having the mother of all tantrums. Korith, the oldest, was the size of a large horse. She was dark red with black spines running down her back, and she was currently using her tail to smash what looked like an antique vase. Her eyes were this intense orange color, but Tyler noticed they looked puffy and irritated. Sleep deprivation, probably. Silas, the middle child, was slightly smaller with blue-green scales that shimmered when the light hit them. She was pacing back and forth, her claws scraping the floor, making this anxious clicking sound with her jaw. Every few seconds she'd let out a high-pitched whine that made Tyler's ears ring. And Tyvex, the youngest, was bronze-colored and currently trying to eat a metal statue. Just gnawing on it like a teething puppy, except puppies don't have teeth that can punch through steel. For a moment, Tyler just stood there thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? All 3 spawn noticed him at once. Korith stopped mid-swing. Silas froze in her pacing. Tyvex dropped the statue with a loud clang. They stared at him with those reptilian eyes, and Tyler felt like a rabbit that just wandered into a wolf den. Then Korith charged. Every instinct Tyler had screamed at him to run, but he'd worked with animals before back home. Dogs, horses, even a really aggressive rooster once. And one thing he knew was that running from a predator just made you look like prey. So instead of bolting, Tyler did the opposite. He sat down. Just dropped right there on the floor, cross-legged, like he was about to do some meditation. Korith skidded to a stop about 5 feet away, clearly confused. Her mouth was open, little flames flickering between her teeth, but she didn't attack. She just stared at him like he'd just sprouted wings. Tyler pulled his backpack around and took out his cleaning supplies. Yeah, he'd brought his cleaning stuff to a dragon nursery. Old habits. He started picking up pieces of broken pottery, organizing them into piles, humming quietly to himself. Just doing his job like this was any other day. The spawn didn't know what to do with this. Every other tutor had either tried to dominate them, scare them, or teach them something. This weird human was just cleaning and humming. Tyvex was the first to move closer, curiosity winning over aggression. He sniffed at Tyler's backpack, making this low rumbling sound. Tyler didn't make eye contact, didn't reach out to pet him. He'd read the briefing materials about Drakthal culture. Direct eye contact was seen as a challenge. You didn't touch without permission. So he just kept working. Man, I'm tired, Tyler said to nobody in particular. You guys ever get tired? I bet you are. Being angry all the time is exhausting. Silas, the anxious middle child, had stopped pacing. She was watching Tyler arrange the debris into neat piles. Then, slowly, she started doing the same thing. Taking broken pieces and organizing them, Tyler noticed and kept his voice soft. Hey, that's pretty good. You've got an eye for patterns. He didn't gush or make a big deal of it, just acknowledged it and went back to his own work. But Silas's scales brightened a little, and she kept organizing. Korith was still standing there, smoke drifting from her nostrils, but the flames in her throat had died down. She was watching Tyler with this suspicious look, like she was trying to figure out what his game was. As the artificial night cycle kicked in and the nursery lights dimmed to simulate evening, Tyler started singing. It wasn't anything fancy, just an old lullaby his grandma used to sing when he stayed over as a kid. Something about stars and dreams and being safe. His voice wasn't great, kind of rough actually, but there was something genuine about it. The weird thing was, the melody seemed to resonate in the room. Tyler didn't know it, but he was hitting frequencies that were really close to the purring sound Mother Drakthol made to comfort their young. Except these three had never heard that sound. Veskara was too busy running an empire to do bedtime routines. Tyvex's eyes started drooping. He was closest to Tyler, and after a few minutes, he just sort of collapsed into a heap, curling his tail around himself. His breathing got slower, deeper. The kid was out. Silas watched her little brother fall asleep, and something in her seemed to break. All that anxiety just melted away, and she moved closer to Tyler, settling down near him. Within minutes, she was breathing in that slow, steady rhythm of deep sleep. Korith held out the longest. Pride? Probably. The oldest always had to be the toughest. But Tyler could see her fighting it, her eyelids getting heavier. Finally, she let out this long, rumbling sigh and curled up a few feet away. Not close enough to admit she needed comfort, but close enough to be part of the group. Tyler kept singing, even after all three were asleep. His voice got quieter, but he didn't stop until he was sure they were really out. Then he just sat there, surrounded by three sleeping dragon children, wondering what the hell just happened. In her office, watching through security cameras, Empress Veskara sat completely still. Her advisor Pyrath stood beside her, equally stunned. How did he? Pyrath started. I have no idea, Veskara said quietly. For the first time in months, her spawn looked peaceful. And all it took was a human janitor with a mop and a lullaby. By the next morning, the entire palace was buzzing with gossip. The human janitor had done the impossible. 3 spawn, peaceful and asleep for 8 solid hours. Some guards didn't believe it until they saw the security footage themselves. Others thought it was some kind of human trick or technology. Tyler woke up on the nursery floor with a crick in his neck and a bronze dragon child using his leg as a pillow. Tyvex was snoring, which sounded like a lawnmower trying to start. For a second, Tyler forgot where he was, then he remembered everything and tried very hard not to panic. The spawn woke up gradually, stretching like cats. But here's the thing that surprised Tyler most. They weren't angry. Korith yawned, showing rows of teeth that could bite through steel, but she looked relaxed. Silas nuzzled against her sister, making this soft chirping sound. Tyvex bounded over to Tyler with what could only be described as excitement, like a puppy greeting its owner. Morning, buddy, Tyler said carefully, and Tyvex did this happy little hop that shook the floor. Within hours, Tyler was summoned to the Empress's office again. But this time, he wasn't alone. The room was packed with aliens. Scientists, xenopsychologists, behavioral experts, even some coalition representatives. All of them staring at him like he was a lab experiment. A tall, insect-like alien with multiple eyes clicked forward. Human Tyler Webb, we need to understand your methodology. What technique did you employ to subdue the spawn? Subdue? Tyler frowned. I didn't subdue anybody. I just helped them sleep. But how? Another alien pressed, this one looking like a floating jellyfish with a translator box. What psychological warfare did you wage? What chemical compounds? Neural suppressants. Tyler looked around the room, realizing these people were dead serious. I sang them a lullaby and cleaned up their room. That's it. The scientists exchanged glances. One of them, a gray-skinned humanoid with no visible nose, pulled up holographic displays. We've analyzed the security footage frame by frame. The human utilized what we're calling the Webb technique. Avoidance of direct confrontation, establishment of routine behavioral patterns, and most intriguingly, the deployment of rhythmic vocal emissions at specific frequencies. You mean, singing? Tyler said slowly. Yes, but it's not just singing, the gray alien continued, getting excited. We've discovered something remarkable. Humans are one of only 3 species in the known galaxy that evolved with what you call lullabies. Songs specifically designed to soothe offspring through emotional resonance rather than logical instruction. Another scientist jumped in, pulling up more data. Most intelligent species evolved differently. The Drakthol are solitary apex predators. The Lamina are hive minds. The Kalathians are pure logic-based thinkers. We have music, yes, but not this specific type of caregiving music. Not songs that exist solely to comfort and bond with young through emotion. Tyler scratched his head. Wait, so you're telling me most aliens don't sing their kids to sleep? Correct, the jellyfish alien confirmed. For most species, child rearing is about education, survival training, or hive integration. The concept of soothing a child simply for emotional comfort is almost exclusively human. A younger scientist, barely out of school by the looks of her, pulled up brain scans. And there's more. Human empathy readings are off the charts compared to galactic averages. You can read emotional states across species barriers. When you entered that nursery, you didn't see 3 dangerous predators. You saw 3 exhausted, overstimulated children who needed comfort. That's not normal thinking for most species. Tyler thought about that. Back home, it seemed obvious. Cranky kid equals tired kid. But these aliens, even the super smart ones, hadn't made that connection. They'd approached the spawn as problems to solve, not kids to understand. Empress Veskara had been silent through all this, but now she spoke. Human Tyler Webb. My spawn slept peacefully for the first time in months. They woke up calm. Even now, my guards report they're playing instead of destroying. I'm offering you a new position. Royal Caretaker. Your Majesty, that's not a janitor job, Tyler said. No. It's not. It's arguably more important. Veskara leaned forward. I can conquer systems. I can negotiate treaties. But I cannot do what you did last night. My species doesn't have that instinct. We raise our young through strength and challenge. But clearly, they need something more during this phase. Tyler looked around at all these important aliens staring at him, waiting for an answer. A few months ago, he was stocking shelves in Ohio. Now an alien empress was offering him a job raising dragon children. I've got conditions, Tyler said, surprising himself with his boldness. I do this my way. No harsh punishments, no dominance games. Just patience, routines, and yeah, probably more singing. Some of the Drakthol nobles in the room hissed in displeasure. One stepped forward, his scales nearly black with age. Your Majesty, this is weakness. The spawn must learn strength, not this, coddling. General Vex, Veskara said coldly, those spawn are my heirs. Under previous methods, they were learning nothing except destruction. In one night, this human achieved what 20 tutors could not. I will not ignore results because of tradition. But Tyler could see it in their faces. Some of these nobles weren't happy. They saw him as a threat, or worse, as proof their empress was going soft. He'd have to watch his back. Still, when he looked at the security feed showing 3 spawn playing peacefully, sharing toys instead of fighting over them, he knew what his answer had to be. I'll take the job, Tyler said. But I'm going to need a bigger supply of cleaning products. And maybe a karaoke machine. The scientists looked confused. Veskara almost smiled. And somewhere in the palace, 3 dragon children were learning that maybe being strong didn't mean you couldn't also be loved. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or strength. It was something much simpler. The ability to care. 3 months passed, and the Imperial Palace had never been quieter. Well, quiet for a place with 3 growing dragon children anyway. Tyler had established what he called the routine. Morning started with breakfast, which for Drakthol spawn meant chunks of synthetic protein that looked disturbingly like meat. Then came learning time, but not the boring lectures previous tutors had tried. Tyler taught through games, stories, and hands-on activities. Korith loved strategy games, turning out to be a natural tactical thinker. Silas discovered she had an artistic side, using her fire breath to create these intricate glass sculptures. And Tyvex, the little genius, was already taking apart and rebuilding palace equipment just to see how it worked. Afternoons were for physical activity. Supervised flight practice in the palace courtyard, which basically meant Tyler standing on the ground yelling encouragement while 3 dragons did loop-de-loops above him. Then quiet time, which the spawn had initially hated but now actually looked forward to. Tyler would read them stories from Earth, translated into their language. Adventure stories mostly, about knights and dragons, which they found hilarious. And every night, without fail, came the songs. Tyler had taught them a few simple Earth lullabies, and sometimes the spawn would try to hum along, which sounded like a broken engine but was honestly kind of adorable. The transformation was remarkable. The spawn had grown, but instead of becoming more aggressive, they'd become more confident and calmer. Korith was protective of her younger siblings now instead of bullying them. Silas's anxiety had mostly disappeared. Tyvex followed Tyler around like a devoted puppy, always wanting to help with whatever he was doing. But not everyone was happy about the changes. General Vex, the old Drakthol noble who'd spoken out during that first meeting, watched everything with growing anger. He'd been whispering to other traditionalist nobles, holding secret meetings. To them, Tyler represented everything wrong with modern Drakthol society. Soft. Weak. Human. The spawn should be warriors, Vex hissed during one of these meetings in a darkened chamber. Instead, they create art and play games. The Empress has been corrupted by human sentiment. But they are happy, one younger noble pointed out. And learning quickly. Happy? Vex's tail lashed against the floor. Drakthol are not meant to be happy. We are meant to be strong. This human is teaching them weakness, and weakness in our future rulers will destroy the empire. Vex hatched a plan. A simple one, really. Prove that Tyler couldn't actually handle the spawn when things went wrong. Show everyone that the moment real danger appeared, the humans' methods would fail and the spawn would revert to their violent nature. And if Tyler got hurt in the process? Well, that was just unfortunate collateral damage. It happened during afternoon nap time on a Tuesday. Tyler had just gotten all three spawns settled down, singing the last verse of their favorite lullaby. Korith was already asleep, Silas was drowsy, and Tyvex was fighting to keep his eyes open like kids do when they don't want to admit they are tired. Then the alarms started blaring. Not the regular palace alarms, but the emergency ones. The kind that meant immediate danger. Red lights flashed, and a recorded voice in multiple languages shouted about a security breach. The spawn jolted awake instantly, and Tyler watched in horror as their calm expressions transformed into panic. Korith's eyes went wide and wild. Silas started that high-pitched whining sound she used to make, her scales flickering with stress colors. Tyvex roared, a sound way too big for his body, flames building in his throat. Tyler's heart was pounding, but his brain kicked into gear. This didn't make sense. No actual attack would trigger alarms this close to the royal nursery first. Someone had done this deliberately. Hey, it's okay. Tyler called out, but his voice was drowned out by the alarms. The spawn were in full panic mode now, their instincts taking over. Korith's claws extended, scoring marks in the obsidian floor. Silas was backing into a corner, hyperventilating. And Tyvex was spinning in circles, fire dripping from his jaws, looking for a threat to fight. This was bad. This was really bad. Tyler had seen the spawn aggressive before, that first night, but this was different. This was pure primal fear turning into violence. And he was the only other thing in the room with them. Korith charged, just like that first night, but this time there was real intent behind it. Tyler didn't have time to think, only react. He opened his mouth and sang. Loud. Louder than he'd ever sung before, his voice cutting through the alarm noise. It was their song. The first lullaby he'd ever sung to them, the one from that very first night. His voice cracked on the high notes, and he was definitely off-key, but he poured everything into it. 3 months of trust, of routine, of being there every single day. Korith skidded to a stop, her claws leaving trenches in the floor. Her head shook like she was trying to clear it. The song was breaking through the panic. Tyler kept singing, moving slowly toward them. Not running away, not showing fear. Just being present, being the constant they'd learned to trust. Silas's whining got quieter. Tyvex's flames sputtered out. And then something happened that Tyler didn't expect. Korith, instead of attacking, moved to stand between Tyler and the door. Silas did the same on the other side. Tyvex pressed against Tyler's legs, growling at the doorway. They weren't trying to hurt him. They were protecting him. The spawn thought Tyler was in danger, and they positioned themselves as his guards. The door burst open and Empress Vescara stormed in, flanked by guards. She took in the scene instantly. The spawn in defensive positions around Tyler. The claw marks on the floor showing where Korith had stopped her charge. And Tyler, still singing, one hand resting on Tyvex's head. Who triggered those alarms? Vescara's voice could have melted steel. A guard stepped forward, looking nervous. General Vex, Your Majesty. He claimed it was a drill, but the timing was designed to coincide with nap time. Vescara finished coldly. Arrest him. Now. As guards moved to carry out her orders, Veskara looked at Tyler. Are you hurt? No, but your kids might have saved my life just now. She looked at her spawn, still clustered protectively around the human, and something in her ancient eyes softened. These weren't just warriors in training anymore. They were learning something her species had forgotten. That strength could also mean protecting those you cared about. General Vex's arrest sent shockwaves through the Imperial Court. Turns out, when you mess with the Empress's kids and try to get her employee killed, there are consequences. Big ones. Veskara didn't just fire him. She stripped him of his rank, his titles, and sent him to a remote mining colony on the edge of Imperial space. The message was clear: touch Tyler or the spawn, and you're done. But something else happened after that incident. Something nobody expected. Empress Veskara asked Tyler to teach her. It started small. She'd come to the nursery during evening routines, standing in the doorway just watching. Then she started sitting in during story time, this massive dragon empress listening to tales about Earth knights and adventures. The spawn were confused at first. Their mother had always been this distant, powerful figure. Now she was just there. Tyler showed her the simple stuff. How to read their body language when they were getting overwhelmed. The importance of consistency. How sometimes kids just needed you to be present, not fixing or teaching or ruling, just being there. One night, Tyler handed her the song sheet. Want to try? Veskara looked at the paper like it might bite her. I don't sing. Neither did I until I worked here, Tyler said with a shrug. They don't care if you're good. They just care that it's you. That night, the Empress of 3 sectors sang a lullaby for the first time in her 1,000-year life. She was terrible. Off-key, wrong tempo, kept forgetting the words. Tyvex actually giggled, which made Korith snort smoke, which made Silas chirp with laughter. But Veskara kept going, and by the end, all 3 spawn were curled up around her, fast asleep. Tyler saw tears on her scales. He pretended not to notice. 6 months after the attack, the changes had spread beyond just one family. Other Drakthol nobles, seeing how well the Imperial spawn were developing, started quietly reaching out. Could they hire human caretakers too? Some were embarrassed to ask, like admitting you needed help with your kids was shameful. But the results spoke for themselves. Tyler started getting messages from other species too. A dignitary from the crystal-based Lamina collective wanted to know if human methods would work for their youth. A military commander from a warrior species asked if Tyler could consult on their training programs, which were producing skilled soldiers but also massive psychological trauma. The Galactic Coalition took notice. They sent ambassadors to observe Tyler's work. What they saw was revolutionary. Here was a species that had cracked something most of the galaxy hadn't even realized was missing. Emotional intelligence. The ability to understand that being strong didn't mean being cruel, and that teaching compassion wasn't the same as teaching weakness. Korith was 14 now in Drakthol years, basically a teenager. She was training for military leadership, but she did it differently than previous generations. She actually talked to her subordinates, learned their strengths and weaknesses. Other officers thought she was soft until she won 3 straight tactical simulations by understanding her team's psychology better than anyone else understood pure strategy. Silas had opened what she called the Cultural Exchange Gallery in the palace. Art from 100 different species, all displayed together. She'd become an unofficial ambassador, using creativity to build bridges between worlds that had been suspicious of each other for centuries. And Tyvex, the little bronze troublemaker, was revolutionizing Imperial engineering. He didn't just design things to be efficient. He designed them to be better for the people using them. Ergonomic ship controls, safety features that actually worked, life support systems that considered crew comfort not just survival. Radical concepts in a society that had always valued function over comfort. But the biggest change happened when Tyler made his pitch to the Galactic Coalition Council. He stood in front of representatives from 200 species, feeling exactly as out of place as he was. These were diplomats, military leaders, scientists. He was a janitor from Ohio who'd accidentally become a nanny. Look, I'm not a fancy speaker, Tyler started. But I've spent the last year raising 3 dragon kids, and I've learned something. Every species in this room is different, right? Different biology, different cultures, different everything. But kids are kids. Doesn't matter if they have scales, feathers, or tentacles. They all need the same basic things. He pulled up images on the holographic display. The spawn's progress charts, psychological evaluations, even some of Silas's artwork. They need safety. They need routine. They need someone who cares enough to be patient when they mess up. And yeah, they need someone to sing them to sleep sometimes, even if that song sounds terrible. That got a few laughs from the audience. Right now, humans are scattered across the galaxy doing random jobs because we're not the strongest or the smartest. But maybe this is our thing. Maybe we're supposed to be the ones who remember that progress isn't just about building better weapons or faster ships. It's about raising the next generation to be better than we were. Tyler took a breath. I want to start an institute. A place where humans can train caregivers from any species in emotional intelligence, child development, and the importance of a good bedtime routine. Because I think if we can get this right, if we can raise kids across the galaxy to be strong and kind, maybe the future looks a little less scary. The vote was unanimous. The Galactic Childcare Institute opened a year later on a neutral planet, funded by the Coalition. Humans weren't leading military campaigns or discovering new physics. Instead, they were becoming known as the Soothers, the species you called when you needed someone who understood that sometimes the most important thing you could do was just be there for someone else. On opening day, Tyler stood at the entrance with 3 teenage dragons by his side. They'd insisted on coming, even though they had important duties back home. When asked why, Korith said something that got quoted across the galaxy. Tyler taught us that being strong means protecting those who need it. Today, he's teaching everyone else the same thing. Of course we're here. As the first class of students filed in, hundreds of different species all learning to be better caregivers, Tyler thought about that night he'd muttered about cranky kids needing naps. He'd almost gotten fired. Instead, he'd helped change how the galaxy thought about raising their young. Not bad for a janitor. That night, Tyler video called his sister back on Earth. His niece appeared on screen, now 7 years old. Uncle Tyler. Did you really teach dragons to be nice? Not nice exactly, Tyler said with a smile. Just taught them it's okay to care about people. Same thing Grandma taught me. His sister wiped her eyes. She'd be proud of you, you know. Tyler looked out the window at 3 young dragons playing in the courtyard below, their laughter echoing through the evening air. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning what Earth had known all along. Every child deserves a lullaby. Even the scary ones with teeth and fire. Especially those ones